Hello everyone. So in this video, we're going to be creating something like this. So we have an inventory system that when we show it, it's reminiscent of like old school Tomb Raider or Silent Hill has something like this. So the inventory is shown in world and you can rotate between them like this. And then you can use objects. So you can see up here, we've used the item. And then once an item has been used, the inventory will update. So let's get it going. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually set up some folders for this. So we're going to call this inventory system. And the first folder we're going to do is we're going to call this the data. So we are going to use data assets. So we can basically have one main data asset that holds all the key information of how the data is going to look. And then we can just create another asset that will take from that. And it's very easy to set up and very nice. So the first thing we're going to need to do is come to Blueprint class, all classes, and search primary data asset. Here we go. So we're going to call this PDA underscore pickup, primary data asset pickup. And in here, we can assign some variables here. And these will be what the data asset is made up of, or the data we're going to show. So let's add a few. The first one is going to be a text, and it's going to be the pickup name. Then we're going to add pickup text. Next is going to be a static mesh. And finally is going to be the pickup amount. So let me just name that. Pickup mesh and then the amount. So the amount is for how many of an object we're going to pick up. The mesh is the mesh. Text is what is going to display on the screen when you've picked it up. So like if you have an inventory that says what the item is, and the name is just the name. Okay, so now we have that. Let's make a few examples. So what we can do is, I'm not sure if we can just right click and child. No, we can't. Okay. So what we do now is we can go to miscellaneous and data asset, and we can pick the one we just created up. So we're going to call this, we're going to make, we'll make 4 of these. So we've got example 1, example 2, example 3, and example 4. Now, if we go into these, we get this. And this is where we can set what each object it will be. So I'm just going to do example 1. I'm going to say this is example item 1. The mesh, we're going to set these up now. So I'm just going to use cube 1 for this one. And I'm going to say you get 5 from this one. Right. So example 2, let's do the same. Example 2. This is item example 2. And I'm just going to do cube. And we'll do that cube. And we'll say you only get 1 of these. And example 3, do the same. Now this is example 3. Example item 3. And I don't have a huge amount, so I'm just going to use, let's see, cube. Let's see, these, I'm just going to use these again because they're all the same size. And then do this example 4. This is example item 4. And we're going to do the same again. Cube. And then cube 2. And we're going to give the player 10 of these. Okay, so let's start by doing the actual boxes themselves or the pickups. There's going to be quite a lot of code in this, so I'll try and do it in the best order. So we're going to create a new actor and call this BP underscore pickup. So the way we're setting this up is we only have one item that we'll drag in the world, and it's going to be very modular. And what I mean by that is you can basically assign this actor many different things based on what data we feed it. So let's do this. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually set up some folders for this. So we're going to call this inventory system. And the first folder we're going to do is we're going to call this the data. So we are going to use data assets. So we can basically have one main data asset that holds all the key information of how the data is going to look. And then we can just create another asset that will take from that. And it's very easy to set up and very nice. So the first thing we're going to need to do is come to Blueprint class, all classes, and search primary data asset. Here we go. So we're going to call this PDA underscore pickup, primary data asset pickup. And in here, we can assign some variables here. And these will be what the data asset is made up of, or the data we're going to show. So let's add a few. The first one is going to be a text, and it's going to be the pickup name. Then we're going to add pickup text. Next is going to be a static mesh. And finally is going to be the pickup amount. So let me just name that. Pickup mesh and then the amount. So the amount is for how many of an object we're going to pick up. The mesh is the mesh. Text is what is going to display on the screen when you've picked it up. So like if you have an inventory that says what the item is, and the name is just the name. Okay, so now we have that. Let's make a few examples. So what we can do is, I'm not sure if we can just right click and child. No, we can't. Okay. So what we do now is we can go to miscellaneous and data asset, and we can pick the one we just created up. So we're going to call this, we're going to make, we'll make 4 of these. So we've got example 1, example 2, example 3, and example 4. Now if we go into these, we get this. And this is where we can set what each object it will be. So I'm just going to do example 1. I'm going to say this is example item 1. The mesh, we're going to set these up now. So I'm just going to use cube 1 for this one, and I'm going to say you get 5 from this one. Right? So example 2, let's do the same. Example 2. This is item example 2. And I'm just going to do cube. We'll do that cube, and we'll say you only get 1 of these. And example 3, do the same. Now this is example 3, example item 3, and I don't have a huge amount, so I'm just going to use, let's see, cube. Let's see, these, I'm just going to use these again because they're all the same size. And then do this example 4. This is example item 4. And we're going to do the same again. Cube. And then cube 2. And we're going to give the player 10 of these. Okay. So let's start by doing the actual boxes themselves, or the pickups. There's going to be quite a lot of code in this, so I'll try and do it in the best order. So we're going to create a new actor and call this BP underscore pickup. So the way we're setting this up is we only have one item that we'll drag in the world. And it's going to be very modular. And what I mean by that is you can basically assign this actor many different things based on what data we feed it. So in the construction script of the pickup we just made, we're going to do a few things. We're going to add a static mesh and a box collision. And we're going to drag in the static mesh like this. And we're going to add a few variables. We're going to add the PDA underscore pickup like this. And we're going to call it pickup data. And from this static mesh, we can do set static mesh like this. I just quickly install a plugin, and it's this. It just allows it to change the nodes like this. So they're a lot more better looking like this. I use the subway style. In case you notice the jump and then this node has changed, so it's not squiggly mess, it's now nice lines like this. Okay, so set static mesh. The way we get the mesh, we grab the pickup data, pull off and say pickup mesh, and plop that in there like that. Then we're going to grab the box and we're going to set box extent. And this is basically how big the box is. So you can set that here. When you're dealing with collisions, don't change the scale, change the actual box extent. The in box extent, what we're going to do, I'm going to grab the static mesh, get local bounds, we'll grab the max and we're going to multiply. And we're just going to right click the bottom, change it to a float, and we're going to set 2 and plop that in. So if we look at the viewport, you'll see it's gone. But what we've done is, if I now drag the pickup in the world, so there's nothing assigned to it. What we can do is, if I go back to the pickup and the pickup data, I click the eye, so it's exposed. I can now place something in. So if I place example 1, there we go. Now we've got the box in the world and it's made the collision the correct size around it. So for example, if I drag this onto the screen like so, and we go to the construction, if I change this to a 1 and then compile, the collision is now exactly the size of the box. So you can do like 1.5 or like 5. This. It's just a nice way so you can, when you're dealing with these data, you can just quickly change how much of a spot around an object the box will be. So you don't have to go in, you don't have to click here, you don't have to like have it open on the window and be like, okay, how much extent do I need to add? Do I need to increase it by this much? This will just automatically find the size of the box and then create the box around it. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we need a interact system on the player. So I'm using the third person template, as you can see here. And we're going to do a interaction system really quick on here. So there's 2 ways of doing it, which is the quick and easy, which is just when you overlap, we enable input on this box, and then we will just use the inputs on this. But I'm going to show you a different way, which is a little bit better. It's what I'm using in my projects. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this interfaces. Interfaces, sorry. And another folder called enums. Now, in the enums, we're going to go to blueprint, enumeration, do E, pickup type, or interaction type. And we're going to add every type of interaction we want to have, we can put in here. So just for now, we're going to use pickup. But in my project, I have in my like retro survival horror game, I have a few different ones. I have like interact with doors. I have ones for notes. I have interact NPCs. So for now, we're just going to use pickup. And we're going to set the thing on here after we do the interface. So let's go in interfaces and create a new blueprint interface. BPI underscore player. So in here, we're going to have a new function and it's going to be called update pending interaction. And this is going to have two inputs. We're going to have the enum we just created. So E interaction type. And we're going to call this pending type. And the bottom one is going to be the actual object we are interacting with. So it's going to be an actor, a reference like this. And this is going to be called interactor. Oh my God, I can't spell interactable actor. I apologize, it's been an early morning. Right, now we have that. That's all we need to do here. In the third person character, no, we're getting ahead of ourselves, I'm sorry. I do have ADD, so my brain is a bit funny in the morning, especially after I've taken my meds. So in the pickup data, we're going to do, we're going to get rid of these. So the box, we're going to click and come down to on component begin overlap. And then we're going to do another for end overlap. So what we're going to do now is we're going to, on the other actor, we're going to check. So we're going to equal if the other actor is the player character. This is another way of getting the player character. Some people will tell you to cast to the player, but you don't really need to because we already know that this is the player and we just want to check if it's, we don't need to cast and ask every object, are you the player? We can just do this. So now we have this. What we need to do now is we need to just, from the other actor, drag off and say update pending interaction. And if it's true, we're going to set that to pick up. And the interactable actor is going to be self. On component end overlap, we do the same. So we can just copy this. And the reason we do the branch is to make sure that it's the player that is leaving the box and not, for example, an NPC. We can do like this, and we can just remove the interactable actor. Now, that's complaining because that needs to be connected. What you can do is, if you don't like it, just this will still work because we're just clearing. But what you can do is in your enum, we can add a new enum at the top. But it's the first, and we just can call it none, like that. So now we can set this to none, just so we're not. Have I accidentally cleared my pickup? Sorry, hang on. No. Maybe if I refresh this node, one sec. Refresh. There we go. Yeah, if that ever happens, where your nodes are not updating, you can right click and refresh. So what this does is it just tells the player that we are on top of an object that we can interact with. And when we leave, we will no longer be able to interact with it. So that's all we need to do in pickup base, like this. So let's do the interaction on the player. On the player, we need to implement that interface, BPI underscore player. And now we have access to these interface options here. If we double click, we will bring it in. And what we want to do is we want to right click these two and say promote to variable like this. So now we have on the player, we know when we interact with an object, we know what type it is and what the actor is. So next is our interact key. So let's do it the correct way, which is to go into input. We can do actions. We can just Control D on jump and do IA underscore interact. And then in the input, the IMC default, add a new mapping, interact, and assign a key. So I'm going to use E. There we go. Then we can call IA underscore interact. So let's build the interaction. So on started, we're going to do a branch, and we're going to grab the interactable actor, and we're going to go say is valid. Not that one, the other one is valid. So if the interactable actor is valid, so we have something, then we are going to start the interaction. So I'm going to just move this to a function. So we can call this start interaction. So on my projects, I have my interaction system in a player component, but for this, I'm just going to show it on here. So what we can do now is we can say, we'll add two inputs, and we can do actor. You can say interactable actor, and then the bottom one will be the E interaction type enum. We can say pending interaction. And back in the event graph, we can pull it in, pull the function in, set to true, and then we can just grab these two like this and plop them in like so. So in the start interaction, what we can do is we can pull off from pending and do switch. So now you see we have our different interaction types. So if you have a big list, then you could create a easy like modular system to go through these. So we're going to do the pickup. We're going to do an is valid. It's always good just to make sure that anything you're interacting with is still there. So we're going to grab the interactable actor. So, and then we are done in here for now. Because we're going to do something else and then put it back. So for the player, we are done for now. What we can do is test this. And we can say, actually, no, we don't, because what we can actually, yeah, we can. What we can do is just to make sure this is working, we can do a print string here and plop that in and just say, we check what we're interacting with. So if we, oh, a bit laggy, let me save and then go again. And if I run in here, so we can see the pickup type changes like so. Right. Next, we're going to make a new blueprint component. So blueprint class, actor component, BPC underscore inventory, like this. So in here, what we can do is we can create a couple of functions just to get the layout ready. I'm going to call this add item to inventory. And the next one will be use item from inventory. Let's add the add item. We need an input, and that will be our PDA underscore pickup item data, we can call that. And then the use is going to be the same. So we just add this for now, and we can call item data. And then that's what we're going to do in here for now. So back in the third person character, when we start interaction, we can fill this in now. So once we've done the is valid check, we're going to add the component to the character. Now we can pull this in and we can say add item to inventory like that. And then we will put this in a bit later on. And then after that is valid. Not self, sorry, the interactable actor. If it is, we're going to destroy it. We can just plug that in like that. So we'll pick the item up, add it to our inventory, and then we're going to destroy the actor from the world. Yeah. So let me just double check. Right. So what we need now is in the BPC inventory, we need some variables. So the first variable will be the EDA underscore pickup. And it's going to be a class of a map. And it's going to be EDA pickup and integer like this. We're going to call this the data inventory like so. Let's go back to the event graph and we get rid of that there. So next is we need to create an actor, which is going to be the actual inventory that's displayed in the world. So new actor, BP underscore inventory actor. We can just leave that there for now. So if we get in play, we're going to spawn actor from class. The transform, we're going to make transform. And the way this inventory works is it spawns a physical inventory in the world, and then we use a scene capture to show it on the UI. So we need to hide this somewhere where the player can't see it, but it's not too far. So we're just going to do -100. So hide it under the map, under the player. The class is going to be the inventory BP underscore inventory actor. Return value, we're going to promote to a variable and call inventory actor. So next, we're going to make a new folder called widget. And in here, we're going to go user interface, blueprint widget, BBP underscore inventory widget, like this. And now we can add a variable to the inventory component, and that'll be our inventory widget. And we just want it to be a variable type of single. Oh, not an array, a single. And then that is all for here for now. So let's go back to. So now we need to actually set up the inventory actor itself. So there's going to be a lot of forward and backwards in this. I will be releasing the project files where you can have a look. So inventory actor, let's do some work in here now. First thing we're going to do is we need a static mesh, and we're going to call this central mesh. This is where all the objects in the inventory are going to be circled around. So there'll be no actual mesh, it's just a place where the meshes can sit. We also need a scene capture component 2D, because this is going to look at the objects and then render it to a material, which we then put onto the UI. So it's going to be dependent on how close you want to look at the objects. But for me, I found a location of 572 with this one set to 170. Now we're facing the wrong way. So we're going to do minus 180 and then on the other minus 20. So we're going to be looking down at the objects here. It's hard to show now because there's nothing here, but once we get it working, you can see what I mean. Right. Next, we're going to need a lot of variables. So first is going to be EDA underscore pickups. And that needs to be a map to match our other map. We're going to call this player inventory. Next, we need a static mesh component, object reference, and make it an array. And these are going to be the meshes that are going to be circling the player, the inventory, sorry. So we're going to call this mesh components. Next, we need some floats. So let's do float and single. Make sure we save. This is going to be the angle, angle increment, wrong, I think. Looks wrong. Then angle, then X, Y. If you're wondering how I'm just duplicating, it's Control and D. Radius. Next, we need a Boolean, and it needs to be of the type of is rotating. We need to make another enumerator, so we can go back to our enums and make a new one. Blueprint enumeration E, inventory direction, and then in here add 2 of forwards, and backwards, like so. And then we can add that here. So direction, the inventory direction, and we can call just this direction. We need another integer called the current slot. We need a rotator called relative object relative rotation. Another one which is going to be WBP underscore inventory widget, because we need a reference to the inventory. So inventory widget. Then we need a timer handle. And this is going to be the rotate timer. So this is all the variables we need. It's quite a lot. Okay, so we're going to start working on the function now. First function, rebuild inventory. This is going to run when the inventory changes, when anything gets updated. So anything gets removed, anything added, the inventory will rebuild itself. So rebuild inventory, we need a input, and it's going to be of type EDA pickup. It's going to be a map, and it's going to be integer for that. This is going to be the inventory items. From this, we're going to set the player's inventory like this. Then we're going to go into a for each loop. The array will be the mesh component. Now, nothing is set in here yet, but we will set it later. Loop body, from the array, we say is valid. If it is valid, we're going to destroy component. But we can do it from the array, destroy component like this. So this just clears whatever is going to be shown in this and then rebuilds it. When completed, we're going to grab the mesh component in clear. So we're going to basically remove any trace of mesh components in the array and start fresh. Then the central mesh, we're going to set relative rotation so it goes back to the start. And then we grab the player inventory and do keys. So keys are whatever is in the first line of this. So this is the PDA stuff. From this, we're going to do a for each loop. The loop body, the array element, sorry, we're getting far ahead. The loop body, we're going to do add static mesh component. Just right click the transform and split. Then we're going to grab the mesh component array and do add. And then hook this up like this. Then add component to component. Let's see. Spell that wrong. Add component to component. Oh, it needs to be dragged off from here. Sorry. Add component. No, why is it no? Grab central mesh. Sorry. Add component. I'm doing the wrong thing. It's attach. Sorry. Attach component to component. There we go. My brain is terrible. The parent actor will be the central mesh, and this target will be the add static mesh here. Okay. Next, drag off and do set static mesh. We don't want it to be on the central mesh. This here is going to go to the one we just created here. And the new mesh is actually going to be from the inventory array here. We can pull this down and plug it in. No, sorry, we need to pull this down, get mesh like this, and then we can pop that in there. So that's the loop body. Now, when we're completed, this is where we assign and set the objects to be in a circle around the inventory. So to do this, we're going to do another for each loop, and it's going to be from the keys again here. Move that up. And sorry, we don't need that for each loop there. I don't know why I did that. We just need, once this is done, we're going to set the angle increment like this, and we're going to grab the player inventory and do length and say divide. We want the bottom node to be the length and the top to be 360. And then that is going to plug into the angle increment here. If you don't want this, you can right click this return value and change it to float, and it'll just plug in. Next, we want to do a for each loop, and we want the mesh components here. Then we're going to grab the angle, the X and the Y, and I'm going to plop these in like this. And for the angle, we're going to grab the array element and we're going to multiply it by the angle increment. This. So for the angle increment, we don't set a value. The only value we set here is the radius, and that'll be 300 for this. So that goes into the angle there. Now, this is the bit where we're going to use some interesting nodes that are math nodes. So just be careful where you connect these up. We're going to do D to R, which is degrees to radians. From that, we're going to do COS, radians, which is cosine. And also from D to R, we're going to do sin, which is sine. radians. Now, the cost one, we're going to multiply. Now, cost needs to go at the bottom, and the radius goes at the top, like this. Once you have this, that plugs into X. The sin, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to just copy here. We're going to get a new radius. Oh, that one. Get a new radius. Plug that in and connect it to sin, and then connect to Y. Once we've got that, we're going to set relative rotation on not the central mesh, but the array element here. The rotation, we can right click and split. And we're going to plug in the X here, there, and the Y to there, like that. So once we've done that, on completed, we're going to grab the scene capture component 2D, and we're going to say show only actor, show only actor components. The in actor is going to be self. Then we're going to plug the completed in. We're going to set the current slot back to 0. Then we're going to do a branch, and we're going to then check if the inventory widget is valid. And if it is, then we're going to update the inventory. So what we're going to do here is we're going to update the widget. Sorry. So what we can do here is we can grab the player inventory and do keys. And true. We're going to get, and we're going to get the current slot. We're going to do is valid on this here, like so. And then this is where we will add an event to call an update on the inventory once we've created it. So this should be everything for now. So back in the event graph, now we can do some work here. This, actually, we don't need to do this yet because we don't have the UI ready. So what we can do now is do some inventory work on the widget. So along with the widget, we need a few other things, two other things. We need a render target. So if we come here and type render target, we're going to call this RT underscore inventory target. And this is basically like we can take the view from the scene capture and pull it onto this. So if we open it, you'll notice that it's a little tiny box. And this is what it would show in game. It would be very low resolution. So we're going to update this. We're going to set it to 1920 by 1080. The higher you set this, the better the quality will be, but the more the performance hit will be. Because you're basically rendering another version of the game on top. So now we got this. We need one more thing, which is a material. M underscore inventory mat. And in here, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this bit here, and we're going to change it to a user interface, and it's going to be translucent. Next, right click and do texture sample. The RGB is going to go into the final color, and then we are going to do on the alpha a 1 minus, pop that into opacity. So this is going to complain. So we click on it and we say sampler, we want linear color, And the texture is going to be our RT underscore inventory target. And now it will stop complaining. That's the render target there. Before we forget, in the inventory actor, click on your scene capture component 2D. Scroll down and come to texture target and change that to RT inventory target. So, widget. Widget is probably the easiest part to set up in a sense, because it is not a lot to it, really. We're going to need a canvas. We're going to need an overlay, which is going to be set by clicking, come to anchors, hold Control Shift and the bottom right, so it's full screen. Next, we're going to need a border. Do the same again, not the same, we fill horizontal and vertically, and set the brush color. I'm going to do black. Then we need we need the render target, sorry. So that'll be an image, top of the border. And we're going to use central line horizontal and vertically. And we're going to just assign sizes to it. So what we do is we can click brush, image size, and then give it a size that we want. So my testing, I normally put this at 1280 by 720, like so. The image we're going to apply is the mesh, the material. So M underscore inventory mat, like that. This is where our inventory is going to show up. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to add a size box to the overlay, like this. And on that, we're going to add a vertical box. Size box. We're going to click on it, and then we want to set the vertical alignment to bottom. Padding. I'm going to open up and just set this to 50 on left. Click width override, height override. 315 for the width, and I find 600 for the height to be perfectly fine. So it'll be here. So in here, we're going to add a few things. We're going to add 1 text box, 2 text boxes, and 3 text boxes. So we're going to set all these to variable, and we're going to name them all. And then we're also going to highlight them all and set them to horizontal align, like so. And we can also do, no, we don't need to fill horizontal. Or do we check? Yes, we do. So these all need to be horizontal and vertically aligned. Justification, you can set to align center text. Top one is going to be txt underscore object name. Next will be txt underscore object amount, and the bottom one will be txt underscore object text. So that's that. Next is we need a horizontal box. We can put that on top of the overlay, like so. This one, we are going to click on it, and we're going to center align horizontal and bottom align vertically. So in here, we're going to add a couple of buttons, well, 3 buttons to be precise, with some text on. So let's do that first, and then we can duplicate these buttons. First one, btn score forward, btn underscore backwards. No, sorry, the middle one is btn underscore use. And the final one is btn underscore backwards. And then we're going to set the text. So forward, use and backwards. And then what we can do is we can set all of these buttons padding. On the left, we can just do a 20 like that. So now we have our rough little UI. Let's go into the graph because with the stuff we need to do in here. So what we're going to do is on construct, we're going to use an event dispatcher to update the UI. So this basically means that this widget is going to listen out, and if it hears a call from any actor in the world that we want to update the UI, then we can do it. So we're going to bind event to update UI, and we're going to drag in and say bind like this. And we're going to say that we're going to add a custom event called update UI text. And what we can do is on the update UI, we can add inputs to it like this. And we want to add a text input and then an integer input. So the first one will be the object name, then the object text, and finally the object amount. Right click and refresh. And when these get called, we're just going to pull in these here. So, and we're going to say set text for all three of them. So we can put that in and just copy this node and connect it to its targets. So this one is the object text. This one is the object, which one's this? The name. And that is the object amount. Okay. Now for the other buttons. So what we can do is we can click on them here and say on clicked them all to get them showing. And we're just going to rearrange this here. So on click forward, what we're going to do is we're going to do a branch. We're going to grab the inventory component. We haven't actually assigned that yet, so let's do that. So we could say BPC underscore, it's the actor, sorry, inventory actor. And we're going to expose this like so. And we're going to call this the inventory component. So from this, we're going to grab the mesh components. And we're going to check how many there are. We're going to check if it's greater than 0. And if it is, then we can grab this and we will call an event. But we haven't added that yet. So we need to add that on the inventory actor. So let's go to do that. Let's check. So back in the inventory actor, this is where we're going to do a lot of work now on the inventory, swapping the spots around when you click the button, like rotating. So we need to do a custom event called rotate items. And this needs to have a array, not an array, a variable of the type direction. So inventory direction, and it's just a single. Call this the direction. Right. So we're going to do another check, which is we're going to grab the player inventory and we're going to do a keys check. And we're going to check if the length is greater than 1. Because that means that we should rotate. Now we have this. We're going to do another branch. And we're going to check if is rotating is false. If it is, we're going to set the direction to the direction here. And then we're going to switch on E. We should be able to just drag off here and say switch. There we go. This. So this is the bit where it might look a bit complicated, but it shouldn't be too bad. So now we have this. First thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the mesh component and we're going to get the current slot and we're going to set the relative rotation to 0. So this is basically when we rotate an object, we want the other object that we rotated from to reset back to its original rotation, because we're going to copy Silent Hill and the objects are basically going to rotate themselves when you're highlighting them. Next, we're going to do a branch and we're going to say if the current slot equal to 0, like this, we're going to do a few things for each. So if it's true, we're going to set the current slot to mesh components length -1. Oops. -1 like this. Then for the central mesh, we're going to get the relative rotation like this. And then what we're going to do is the object relative rotation we're going to set here. And then we're going to split this like this. No, sorry. We're going to pop that in there like so. And then we are going to set is rotating to true. We need a timeline, so we're going to do timeline. We call this rotate timeline. And in here, we're going to set the length 0.5. So that's how quick it will take for the objects to rotate. We're going to add a float track, and we're going to call this alpha. Right click and add 2 nodes. Time 0 and time 0.5. And then this one here, we're going to set the value to 1. So we have one straight line going up like this. Then we can compile it. I accidentally closed the inventory actor, didn't mean to do that. So now we have this. What we want to do is plug that into play from start, like so. On update, we're going to grab the central mesh and we're going to set relative rotation. And the way we get this is we are going to get the angular increment. We're going to multiply. And we want to multiply the alpha by the angle increment, like so. Then we're going to multiply again. And we need to do a select on this, like so. The direction here will plug in. And for forwards, we're going to move 1. Backwards will be -1. So this will basically reverse which direction we go, depending on what the direction set is, which comes from the buttons itself. From this, we're going to do a plus. And the, that was right, sorry. So the bottom one here, we are going to get the relative rotation, right click here and split. Then from here, we're going to pull down and do make rotator. And the X and Y is going to be that there, the X and Y here. And the pitch, the yaw is going to be this here. No, sorry, the yaw is going to come from the yaw here going into the plus there. So we're combining these. Then we're going to round it just to make sure it's a flat number and plug in there like that. Okay. Next, let's move this over here a bit like this. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add another custom event. I'm just going to do it over here. It's called start rotate. And this is what, when an object is highlighted, we want it to start rotating. To do this, we're doing set timer by event. The event is going to be a custom event called rotate object. The rotate timer we made earlier, we're going to set it here like so. Okay. So rotate object, first thing we're going to do is we're going to do an is valid. And we're going to check to see if the mesh component at the current slot, get current slot, is valid. If it's a real spot. If it is valid, then we want to set relative rotation. Not that one, sorry. We're going to get the component here, set relative rotation, true. And the new rotation, we're going to make rotator. And then from this, we want to get rotation, so get the relative rotation, split it, and the yaw, we're going to grab this and do plus 2. Put that into the yaw. The pitch and the roll can just hook back up here, like so. So from the time here, we want to get the world delta seconds. And then once we've done that, let me just double check everything fine. Yep. So once we've done that, we're going to now do a new event. So we can do a custom event again. We can call this update the UI, like so. And for this, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the player's inventory. It's get. Not get, sorry. I'm going to do keys. Then we're going to do a get. We're going to get the current slot. This. We're going to grab the pickup name. We want the text. And we want the amount. Then the inventory widget, pull in and say call update UI. Like so now we have this. We can plug this in. Pickup name goes to object name. Pickup text, object text. Pickup amount goes to object amount, like this. Once this is done, we can set is rotating to false, like that. So now, finished, what we're going to do here is we can say start rotate, like this. And then we're going to call our update the UI here. Update the UI. That's that bit done. So next is going to be the backwards part. So this is basically the same. We're going to do the exact same here. which is to set the current slot that we're rotating away from back to 0. We're going to do a branch, and we're going to say if the current slot is equal to the mesh components length minus 1, then we can pop that there. And let me just check here. So I need to do a bit more here as well on the false. If this is false, we're going to get the current slot, and we are going to grab the current slot here and do -1 clamp, and the maximum, this is where we run out of space quite easily. The maximum is going to be the mesh components length minus 1, and that'll be the maximum. And then from that here, we plop that back into the set the relative rotation there. That continues on. Next, we can go back down to do the backwards. So if it's true, we're going to set the current slot 0 and then run that back into here. So then it goes back into there. If it's false, we're going to set again. We can clamp here. Let me just move this up here slightly. We're going to take a copy of this here. Let me just make sure. Are we? No, we're not. But we're going to, from the length, we're going to do a, plug that into the maximum. The value is going to be the current slot plus 1, like this. And then once that's done, what we can do here, we can say reroute, pop these both into there, and then send them on their way to here. So that is everything for the rotating. The next thing we need to do is we need another custom event called toggle inventory. This is to get the inventory on the screen. So we're going to grab the inventory widget and we're going to say is valid. Not that one. Is valid. And then if it isn't valid, we're going to create widget. And that's going to be of inventory widget. And then the inventory widget, we need this inventory component to be exposed on spawn. So it shows up here. The inventory component is going to be self. Like that. Then we can set, using our variable, the inventory widget. Add to viewport. We can get the player controller. Set show mouse cursor. Like this. And then start rotate. And plop this into the date text. Update the UI. Like that. If it is valid, what we're going to do is we are going to grab the inventory widget, remove from parent, set the inventory widget to nothing. Make sure mouse cursor is set to show. Remove from parent, do this, get the player controller, your mouse cursor to false, then grab the rotate timer and do clear and invalidate timer by handle. Okay, so that should be everything in here. Let's go back to BPC inventory and we'll double check what we need to do here now. So there's some things in inventory actor we need to do still, which is make sure that the player inventory is got this eye on it, because then if we go back here and refresh, not updating, so make sure it's exposed on spawn like so. And then we also need the let's see. There's one more thing we need to add, which is here, and it's BPC for inventory component, and then make sure the little eye is clicked and expose and spawn. And then now we can add our things in. So the refresh, I forgot to name it, so that will be inventory comp. And refresh again. So the inventory comp is going to be self, and the player inventory is going to be data inventory. Okay, let's go back to the widget now. So now we've done the code for the rotate. All we need to do now is from inventory component, we can say rotate items, and forwards, we're going to go forwards, and then backwards, we can do a branch. Just plug that in there and grab an inventory component and say rotate items backwards. And the final one is going to be the use button. So use here. I don't know why I did that, but drag the inventory component here. And we're going to do use selected use. Have I added use yet? No, I haven't. So back on the inventory actor. This is what I mean about it's confusing. There's a lot of things to do. We're going to make a new function called use selected item. We're going to grab the player's inventory and we're going to do keys. Keys. Like this. And then we're going to get a copy. We're going to get the current slot from here. We're going to use item. We're going to grab the inventory component, which should be under components, and use item from inventory and put the item data in like that, and then we can return. So now if we go back to BPC inventory and we go to use item from inventory. So now we're here. What we're going to do now is let's build out this. We also need to do add items from inventory, add items to inventory. So we'll do that after we have done this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a branch, and we're going to get the data inventory and we're going to find, and we're going to check if we have, well, basically we're going to check to see if the stuff in the inventory is more than one. If it is, we're going to do one thing. If it's not, we do another. So let's do a greater than 1 and put that into the branch there. Next, so if it's true, so if there's more than one thing in the inventory, we are going to remove the one from it. And to do this, even though it seems counteractive, we're going to do an add on the inventory, because to remove from a map, you actually have to add to it. So the way we do this is we get the data inventory here, the find, and we do find minus 1, and then we plop that into the like that. The asset is going to come from item data here. Once we have that, we're going to grab the inventory actor and do a call for update UI, call update, inventory actor, and then we need the inventory widget, and then we're going to call update UI on that, like that. So to get these here, we are going to get the item data, and we're going to pull up and say we want the item pickup name, the pickup text, and then we're going to grab, once we've added to the map, we're going to grab it again, and we're going to find, and we're going to grab here and put that amount into the, like so. We can move these two over here. So object text and object name, and these would go into a return. So if the object is fully being removed from the inventory, like 100% complete, we are going to use a remove node instead on map. And the inventory is going to go here, and the asset is going to be the item data here. And once we've done this, because we're removing something, we need to rebuild the inventory because the space that recently had this object is now empty. So the inventory needs to shuffle around. To do that, we grab the inventory actor and do rebuild inventory here, like this. And we need to plug that into there. So now we can remove or use something. We need to actually add something to the inventory now. So let's go and do that. And let's see. So we need to do a branch, and we need to grab the data inventory and do a find. And we want to make sure that if there's anything in the data, we are going to increase the amount and not just add a new thing to it. So the way we do this is from the find, we say plus, and from item data, we do pick up amount and put that in there. Then the map, we say add, connect that up like this, and the data comes from item data. So this is for the true. Then from this, the add, we need to grab the data inventory again, and we can do rebuild. Oops, no, sorry. That comes from the inventory actor. Rebuild inventory. So we add that in and put the data in like so. Then we can return. Return false. What we're going to do is basically do the same. We're going to do an add. And we're going to add to the inventory. We're going to add this object, but instead of figuring out how much we already have, because we don't have any, we can just get the pickup amount and plug that straight in. So after we do that, then we can just rebuild the inventory again. So we can pop that up there, and there we go. So this is adding and using items. So we're almost done. There's a few things left to do. We need a way to get the data from the actor when we pick it up. So to do this, we're going to create a new blueprint interface called BPI underscore interactable table. And In here, we're just going to say get item data. And instead of an input, we want an output. And the output is going to be PDA pickup. And we can call this item data. Now, if we go to our pickup actor and we implement that by going to class settings, add API interactable, we have this now, I get item data. If we drag the item data in and then connect it here and save, when we now go to our player character where we have this start interaction we set up at the start, on the interactable actor, we can actually grab here and we can call get item data. We can slot that in there. So now when we try and when we pick up an object, we are telling the inventory here that this is the item we want to pick up and add to the inventory. So if we try here, we run over here and press E, we pick up the objects, but nothing happens yet because there's one bit we need to do. In the event graph, we are going to do, just for now, we do a keyboard I. Where is it? There we go. And this is how we can say, press keyboard I. We are going to show the widget. So we can grab the inventory actor and then say toggle inventory. So if we do this, so now if I press I, you'll see that that's the map, the target showing. So we have an issue here because we don't want to see all this. We just want to see the objects, and there's a bit of an error there. So that error is because the inventory is empty, which we will fix shortly. So what we want to do is the inventory actor, the scene capture 2D. We want to click on this, and there's an option called, if we scroll down, it's we don't want to capture on movement. We want to, if we type show, where is it? This primitive render mode, we want use show only list. And there's a few other settings we can do. We can type show like this, and we can go through and disable some things we don't need to see. So if we scroll down, in my project, I've disabled things like these ambient occlusions and dynamic shadows. I disable all of these because we don't need light in where we are showing. So if we try it now and press I, now we just have a black screen, which is what we want. So let's see what's wrong with this. Access none, try now. Okay. So this is saying this is currently empty. So what we can do here is say is valid on here. If it is valid, do this like this. So if we try now, we press I and then I again. There we go, nothing happened. So let's go pick up these. We have them, but they are at a funny angle and they're not doing it correctly. So let's see what's gone wrong here. So I found the issue. I used the wrong node here. It's not set relative rotation. It is set relative location. Do that and just get rid of that. So the scene component is the array element, and the new location we split, and we do y into y, x into x. So let's see now. We pick these two up. So we have our object here, but it's not rotating, and there's only one of them. So let's change this to example 2 and pick these two up. So let's see, there we go. So now we have them both. And if we go forwards and backwards, we're going between them. Press use. So the number isn't going down. The use button isn't working. So we need to fix that. There's one other thing I've noticed, that the objects are not rotating. Let's see where we've done that. Start rotate, so we need to click looping. So let's try now. Let's pick these two up. There we go. If I go forwards, start spinning. But use isn't working, so let's check what's going on with the use button. We go to the widget and we can click on use. And we haven't set use up, so that might help. Turns out if you set stuff up, it will work. So use selected item that we created earlier. Compile and save. And let's try this now. So pick up these two. We have two objects. We have 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And now this one comes back. If we use that, that goes away. I think there is one more problem. That this is example 1, and when I use it and it goes away, then this doesn't update. So let's fix that. So to fix that, we go into a bit that we missed earlier. Or I missed in the BP inventory actor in the rebuild inventory. We need to finish this off. So we have the keys here, and then what we need now is player inventory. We need values like this, and we are going to do a get, and this comes from the current slot. And from values, we do is valid. And if it is, we grab the inventory widget and we do call update UI like this. So the value get we can plop into the object number. And then the other parts can come from this get here, and we can say object text. Object, or is it pickup? Pickup text, and pickup name. So we can put those into there. So now let's try what happens. So we have items in our inventory. We can go back, we can go forwards, we can use, so it goes down. Once it's completed, then this is going to be here. I use again, and it doesn't show anything. So at that point, we would close the inventory, or we would say that we would show a screen that says inventory empty. So let's do that now. So what we'll do is we'll make it so that if the inventory is empty, it will just display some text. So what we'll do is we'll go into the inventory and we will have a new thing here. And what we can do is we can say that we can just add another event. We can bind another one and say inventory empty. And we can bind here. And custom event inventory clear screen or display empty text. And what we could do is we can say we can grab the we can grab these. No, all we need to do is we can grab this here, this vertical box, and promote it to a variable. We call it like v underscore object data. And we can say, oh, we don't even need to do that. What we can do is we can grab these and we can just set them to blank. Oh, take that. So object amount, object name, and object text. Blank these out, and then we can add a new text on top of the overlay. We're going to put it in the middle of the screen, and we can just say inventory is empty. Or we can leave it blank here. And we can say, grab this, make it variable, txt underscore state. And we can grab that, and then set text. Inventory empty. And all we do then is, if the inventory isn't empty, we come over here and we just set this to empty. So let's see now. So we do that, and we're going to use these, and then that, and it's not doing it because I've not called it. That would be helpful. We can say so where would we put this? Let's see. It would go in here. And if it's not valid, we say inventory empty, like that. If we look now, we can use these, and then on the last one, use inventory empty. We use on again, nothing will happen. Same with forward and backwards. One last thing, if we try and open the inventory while there's nothing in it, we can do that in the, let's see where we do it. Where do we create the here, toggle inventory. What we can do is we can say, we can just do a branch here. No. Here, actually. Do that and update the UI. We can say branch. This. Player inventory. Oops. Player inventory length less than less equal 0. It's false. We do that. If it's true, we are going to grab the inventory and say inventory empty. So let's try this. If we press I now, I, inventory empty. We pick something up. Now we have our inventory that we can go through. So that's the inventory set up. So we now can pick up objects, and then we can rotate them. This can go, so if I do this, say 3, one can be 4. If I pick all these up, you can see there's our inventory. If I use one, the inventory will change to accommodate the change in size. The last bit to do is how to actually have the inventory do anything. So like when you use an object. The way we're going to do this is we're going to use player components. So I'm just going to do this and I'd say object use components. And in here, I'm going to create a blueprint class, actor component, UPC underscore use item base. And what we can do is on begin play, we can say print string, you have used this item. Then is valid self destroy component. So what you could do is you could put your logic for what happens here, and then once your logic's done, you can destroy it here. So what we can do is we can edit the, if we got PDA pickup, we can add a new thing. We can say player, not player component, actor component. It needs to be a class reference, and we'll call this the on use effect. Okay. So now if we modify the pickup data of example 1, we add that new one we just created, which is called, what did I call it? Use item base. Use item base. Now, let's see if we can add this on. So in the inventory, when we say use item from inventory, we are going to grab from the item data, the on use effect. From here, we can get owner, which gets the owner of this current component, which is the player. Add component by class. Put that there, use on effect, and then hook that back up. So instead of these connecting elsewhere, they can both connect up here. And then let's try this now. So if I pick this up and then I use it, you have used this item. So there we go. Now we have, oh, there's an error. It's there. So what's the error? Is it when I just use one? Or is it when I use and the inventory should be empty? So to fix that, all we do is use from inventory. We're doing it is valid, and we plug the item data in, and if valid, we continue the branch. If not valid, we go to the return node. If we try it now, we can pick these up. We can use the item and then it goes away. We use that one, gone away. Aside, close it, and then there we go. We closed that. I did notice one thing. If I use all these and then use that, the isn't vanishing. Why is that doing that? Let's see. Not showing inventory empty anymore. So let's see. Inventory. Use item. Remove here. It should be. So should have been here. So fixing that. When we add the actor component, we don't actually want to do that here. We want to add it for if we have multiple like that, and we want to run into update UI. If the inventory is empty, we just want to add a component by class. So the same one, and then run that into the return node. So let's double check with these. Now this one, yeah, so this one won't show anything because we've changed the way this works, and we need to add the on use effect. So we can say use like that. And then if we try now, pick both of these up and we go to this one, press use. You've used this item, and then we've used all these, and inventory is empty. So that's the inventory system complete. It is quite a long video to do, and there was a few issues with it. But I hope this has been useful. Please let me know if you found it useful. I will be putting up the files for this on my Patreon page that you can get for free. And I'll also be putting this onto GitHub as well. So I hope you found this useful. If you have any comments or anything you want to see, please leave them. And I look forward to seeing what you make with this. So I'll see you in the next video.